They had the big crypto summit at the White House. I'm sure you were there, or at least had some people there. A lot of people watched that, like me, and had no idea what any of that meant. So, can you help explain it to us?
Absolutely. So, the president has declared that we are going to be the crypto capital and Bitcoin superpower of the planet. There is not a clearer contrast that you can find on issues with the Biden administration than you can find in this area because they spent 4 years trying to put all digital asset businesses out of business because they were trying to protect kind of incumbent industries. But we really need to update the system with sounder money, with cheaper, faster, more secure payments. There's no reason why all of our assets the value is inflating away and it still takes days upon days and exorbitant fees just to move money around. So things are moving fast, and the US really needs to lead in this if we want to maintain our economic supremacy. And the president recognizes this. So this is a policy roadmap that is really taking the opposite approach from Biden, which was to put us out of business. And his approach is to ask, well, what do you need from us policy wise to help you succeed? And this is kind of the manifestation of all that industry input and feedback that they've received. So really exciting day for the industry and great accomplishment for the president and his team. I know the staff worked really hard on this, and this is the fruits of their labor. It's going to lead to more growth and success in America.
And to me, when I hear cryptocurrency, I think economic freedom. I also think there's people out there like Elizabeth Warren, I would imagine, America's mother-in-law, who are very upset about this, and others, they don't like crypto. Why is that?
Because they want to control everything we do. Her preferred outcome is a central bank digital currency where Americans are subject to government tracking, surveillance, and control over every transaction. And what this does, the president's plan enables the private sector to give people better solutions and that'll evolve faster and that maintain freedom and leave the power with the people in the private sector. I mean, that's the simplest way of describing it. Freedom, as you said, on the one hand, versus total top-down control on the other. So the president's taken the right approach here. The industry is thrilled to be able to work with him because the last administration wouldn't even listen to us. They just would attack, attack, attack.
Well, the last administration hired 87,000 IRS agents and accountants so that they could start tracking people who made deposits of $600. I mean, they were all about going after people and tracking every dollar that they spent.
Oh, absolutely true. And Senator Cruz and others have pointed this out. If you want the Senator Pocahontas model, if you will, then look no further than the Chinese Communist Party and their central bank digital currency. They can decide you're only allowed to shop at this supermarket today. You're not allowed to buy a firearm today. You're not allowed to buy another gallon of gas. You're not allowed to buy more beef. Whatever it is that that the commies don't like, they can prevent you from doing it. But what the president is saying, especially with Bitcoin, which is decentralized, it doesn't have an issuer or a central bank that controls it. It empowers individuals. This is really the opposite approach, and the president wants that approach to thrive and be exported around the world and foster more freedom rather than more centralized control. It's really what we need now to help foster innovation and to make America the leader in the economy of the future. You really have to embrace these things. And the president's been quite visionary on this, I think, in taking the opposite approach from the Biden administration.
So, Brian Morgenstern, does that give, say, credit card companies that want to track your purchases for all their woke initiatives, does that give them a little agita? Because I know that was a big complaint that people had, which is that they would be essentially, tracked and if they bought a gun, if they bought ammunition, certain things. And we had a whole, I mean, you were in the White House when a lot of this was exposed by you guys, big banks, central banks that were really outing their customers.
Yeah, and I think it does give a lot of the legacy institutions some agita. For example, a lot of the smaller banks were very upset about stable coins and potentially being able to earn interest on stable coins because they're saying, well, you're going to put us out of business. Well, look, we need a better system. They can adapt if they want to. They can embrace new technology if they want to. But the legacy system is not working for many Americans and many people around the world. You look at Tether, which is a stablecoin company, they have hundreds of millions of people around the world who are not banked. They're not, banks don't want to take a chance on them. Well, they can use US dollar stablecoins now to store their value or to transact. And so it's happening whether they like it or not. They can either learn how to adapt their business models or they can be left in the dust. But what the president's saying is let the market decide, let the people decide. And I think that's a really good approach.
Brian, for those that are trying to kind of wrap their heads around all this, a point you made earlier, and again, Brian Morgenstern's with me. He was in the first Trump administration. This idea that America needs to be the leader in crypto around the world, and we have to be, and the president wants domination and supremacy on this. Why does that matter?
Well, because if you want to be a superpower, and it's not inevitable, by the way, America's been a superpower, since World War II and in the aftermath and everything. We started to rise really with the Industrial Revolution. If you have economic growth that's faster than the rest of the world, you're going to be dominant diplomatically, you're going to be dominant militarily. The next wave of growth is going to be in digital assets, and it's going to be in AI. Because it's the way you move money and it's the way you move information. And if it is underpinned by these kind of central planning communist values, woke values, I suppose, is one way of putting it, well, then the whole world is going to be, ground to a halt. We're not going to grow fast enough. We're just not going to be able to compete. But if it's really underpinned by American values, freedom, empowerment to innovate, empowerment for people, to take control of their financial future and for them to get the best, most accurate information quickly, then really America is going to continue to lead. We're going to grow faster and everybody else is going to be trying to catch up to us. So if you let others lead, we're going to fall behind. If we lead, we will maintain our superpower status. I think it's that existential an issue.
I want to play a clip for you, Brian, if I could. CNBC this morning was taking shots at, we mentioned Pocahontas a little bit earlier today, Elizabeth Warren, and some of these others, who have been just decrying the gloom and doom of the economy that's gonna happen under President Trump. And we got great economic numbers today, which I want to get your take on as well. But this is cut number 2.
The left and people that don't like the president and don't want things to work. And like Senator Elizabeth Warren will come on and say, inflation's out of control and the economy is getting killed by what's happening by these tariffs. This 3% with the market at new highs, and really we haven't seen inflation, go up back to 3%. Maybe it will this week. Maybe we'll see it. But none of these horrible things have happened, but they still talk like it's happening. It's amazing.
Well, there's an important lesson there. Don't pick a congressman to be your money manager. That's what I would say. But in the end, Congress has their own reasons to point out certain things. And the Democrats, of course, as you pointed out, really don't want to see the current administration have some success. But there's no doubt that this is some success. We're seeing more horsepower. We're seeing better equities. Inflation really hasn't changed much in the last.
Now, Brian, the only thing I take issue with is he said maybe Congress shouldn't be your money manager. Today, the bill that they pushed out of committee, which would ban stock trades by members of Congress, which I think is a good thing and something we should all embrace. But other than that, it's true. You hear Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders and others, they have been it's nothing but doom and gloom with these people. Even today, despite the fact that the GDP numbers are up, it's still doom and gloom.
Yeah, and we faced this for all 4 years of the first Trump term. But what did people actually experience? They experienced stronger growth than they'd seen in a generation. They saw middle class, working class wages rise faster at a faster pace than their bosses for the first time in many years. We saw more economic activity picking up like crazy. But it comes back to kind of the two approaches. President Trump's approach is, I want to make you rich. I want to make us all rich. The Democrats' approach is, I want you to give me power. And they don't get more power if things are working well. So they have to message that things aren't working well. And the only way to get them back on track is to give me more power. Whereas, like I said, the president's letting consumers in the market decide and follow the incentives, which are lower taxes, immediate expensing to build a bigger industrial base here, tariffs to help build more industries domestically and open up markets for American companies. It's, again, the president's message is, I want you to be rich. The Democrats' message is, I want you to give me power. I know which one I prefer. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, Brian, I'm with you on that. The other thing, too, that the president's been saying a lot of, and something that I love, is he wants nations to be rich, and he wants to make them strong, and this way we don't have wars. So instead of, somebody said, instead of, make love, not war, it's make money, not war, with this president.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And think about what's happened. So when the president was in office first time, we had the Secretary of Energy and we had our ambassadors, particularly to Europe. Now he's doing it with India, it looks like. But in that first term, it was buy American natural gas. Buy your energy from us. We want to do business with you. We want to get rich and help you get rich. And that approach was starving the Putin war machine, and it was starving the Iranian terror machine of funds to fund this, malign activity. Then you had the Biden administration reverse course. Guess who got more powerful, more rich, more violent? Yeah. Russia and Iran, for example. Now, going back to the Trump approach, it's going to take some time to undo the damage that was done. But we already know the proof is in the pudding because we saw it the first time around, that you're going to have a more peaceful world and a more prosperous world with Trump's approach.
And it's amazing how, nations in Europe buying Putin's natural gas and then also giving Ukraine money to fight Vladimir Putin. I mean, it was just so mind-boggling. So I guess I'll ask you this question. Well, two questions. Number one, with the new deal the president announced with the EU, that's going to be great for us and our liquid natural gas exports to Europe. So that's great news for us. Great news for Pennsylvania. I mean, as the liquid natural gas capital, and if we get these export facilities up and running, and we can send our natural gas to Europe faster than other parts of the country can. So it's great news for them. But number two, it's also a sign, I think, to Europe that when the president goes over there and he says right to the face of the prime minister, we're not doing windmills. They're stupid. They don't work. We're not doing it, right? It's a sign that we are, and Europe was warned about this. I mean, he sat across from Angela Merkel. You were in the White House then, and he warned her. He said, you are going to make Vladimir Putin very powerful and very rich if you go down this road. And Germany went down that road. And so now I think the message is, hey, the United States, we are going to be, and I love how he says this, we're not just going to be energy independent, we're going to be energy dominant. And we will then be able to help keep the world more peaceful in the process, but also help them keep the lights on, Brian, which is a very, very important point.
It's absolutely a very important point. And look, I love all kinds of energy, but he's right on windmills. They're intermittent sources, so they're only really supplying power when the wind's blowing. But if you're going to power this digital economy with digital assets and AI that are going to make everything more efficient, they're going to make workers more efficient, they're going to create more GDP per capita. Well, you need a lot of reliable baseload electricity. The Secretary of Energy was just talking about this at the AI summit where the president spoke. Yep. And, I think there were some renewable energy investors who maybe were a little unhappy with his comments. But we've seen it in grids around the country when you have these intermittent sources that go way up with what they're giving to the grid and then way down very quickly. It can cause reliability problems. And if your business requires electricity 24/7, you can't just be running it when the wind's blowing. You have to run it all the time. So that means natural gas. It means nuclear. It needs these reliable baseload power sources. And so the president's right. We can't live in fantasy land. We can't live in the world that we wish existed. We have to live in the one that does. And that means reliable baseload power. So he's totally right. And I'm glad he's spreading that message.
You and I have known each other a long time, and now you're a big shot in the crypto world, but you were a political guy like I was in a former life. Let me ask you this question from your vantage point. Do you agree with my point that there was a time when Joe Biden, the astute politician that he once was would have never allowed a liquid natural gas export ban to happen in an election year when you had to win Pennsylvania. Because I really believe that executive order was signed by auto pen by White House staffers who just figured they could do whatever the hell they wanted. Because when Mike Johnson asked him about it, he had no idea what the speaker was talking about. And I just, that when he was shrewd back in the day, he would have been smart enough to say, we got to win Pennsylvania. We're not doing a liquid natural gas export ban.
Oh, I'm with you. I agree. And look, I knew people in the White House even when Biden was there, and there were different sides of, there were people debating, but there were certainly voices in that White House who were saying what I think you and I would say, which is, well, you can't do that because think of all the downstream consequences. Right. But it was the crazy voices who ultimately won out. And based on what the speaker said, I have no reason to doubt that you're right, that, if Joe Biden were Joe Biden of old and at least had his faculties, and as the president says, maybe he wasn't the sharpest tool 25 years ago, but he at least knew electoral math. And electoral math includes economic math in states that really matter. And, natural gas exports are critically important to the United States and to our allies, as we've already discussed. So I just can't imagine that if he were all there, he would have read that and said, oh, yeah, let's go ahead. I mean, I just think the staff steamrolled him, and it was the particular crazy parts of the staff, I think, that ended up winning the argument. And ultimately, the auto pen made the choice. And it's a shame. That was really harmful for the country and for our allies. But thank goodness President Trump is back and he can correct course.
Before I let you go, Brian, how does it feel knowing that you were in the White House and people accused people like you of working for a Putin puppet, a Russian asset, a spy, all this other nonsense, that now that all this is finally coming out, thanks to CI Director John Ratcliffe, thanks to DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard, thanks to the House Intelligence Committee, thanks to Chuck Grassley, now that all the truth is coming out about how this was all set up by Brennan and Clapper and Comey, that's got to be a certain sense of vindication.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I was saying for years when I was there, I know the man. I can assure you he is not a Russian spy. And the fact that you guys have been accusing him of being a Russian spy for 3 years is pretty mind-boggling, especially when we were announcing sanctions on Russia all the time when I worked at the Treasury Department. And so now all this coming out is very gratifying. It's still frustrating, though, is that the mainstream media, I think, is still just not going to give it the just desserts, that this was just a scam. For years and years, they painted the American president as a traitor. What a ridiculous narrative. But thank goodness it's finally being, debunked and proven so with the great people we have in there now. I know Director Ratcliffe well. He is a great guy, a patriot, and thank goodness that he's able to finally air out the dirty laundry so that we can put all this behind us.
It's great catching up, my friend. Come back and visit us again on the show. Follow Brian on X at Morgenstern NJ. And please do come back and visit us and keep us posted on all things in the world of crypto.